Hello, I'm Tony, I'm an addict.
Hi, Tony.
And I was just picking up the energy and the vibe in here, and it feels lovely. It feels really like recovery, and I'm kind of a bit envious that I don't come here regular, but I'm a bit kind of grumpy in these days, and but I just, if you're a regular here and it's just like another old meeting, let me tell you, it's lovely. And when Lily was sharing, I laughed out loud when she said I was shooting up meth, because I just looked at her and I thought, butter, it looks like butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. and then I got embarrassed because I was the only one laughing. So who am I to judge, And my bottle went a bit, and then I went into the loo, and it was all going on in there. There was like people coming in and hugging and sharing, and I felt really relaxed. And that energy that addicts have, you know what I mean? I've been in restaurants and stuff, and like New Year's Eve in a restaurant, and we go in there all quiet and self-obsessed, and then it starts, and then the energy starts, and then the sharing and the stories, and people are like looking over thinking, I want what they're drinking, and there's definitely that, that kind of thing. And I feel the last time I was asked to speak here, I dried up. I don't know why they asked me back, but to be honest, I didn't even know why they asked me in the first place, and I think the 15 minutes thing is great. You could just sort of got in trouble, got clean, got to NA, got in trouble, stayed clean, got a sponsor, got in more trouble, done the steps, beginning, middle and end, And so I, like I say, I dried up after 20 minutes because I'd been on a building site all day, and I just came here and although I've got a bit of clean time, there's a few of us in there that, that have been around since, dare I say it, the 80s, but we're older, and I kind of ache a bit more, and it's a bit slower. And then the first time I did a chair here, I had about 10 minutes to go, and I'd only got to 1977. So I've got to try and get the bit of balance tonight, I was very much addicted to escapism from an early age. Reality sucked, and I was the eldest out of four children, and we were always moving, and I can see, a bit like yourself, my family stuck together, but like I say, my dad's role was looking after us, and we were always moving, and I couldn't see at the time that with children it's about security, and I felt very insecure, and I didn't know how to talk about that or anything, and I would be in one school, settle down, and then we'd move off to another area and then to another school, and this happened quite a lot, and I'm not blaming my addiction on that, but what I'm saying is I found reality quite difficult, and I would escape into TV, and we didn't have PlayStation then, but I'd escape into that, and football and pop stars, and and I'd love things like the Avengers, UK Gold, ITV4, God almighty, you see it's all on there now. But I used to watch things like that, and I'd have my toys, and I'd paint for ages, and I could find a shed, and I'd go in there, and I was learning. I don't know if I was being creative or just isolating, but it just felt like it felt safe in my little world. And then, of course, I went to school, I got bullied, I didn't have any big brothers to run home to, and I had to learn to fight back. I've done a step 4, I've done 2 step 4s, and, I was interfered with, I was abused, we had a paedophile in the family, and I didn't think that was normal, but I didn't know, I took on the shame, I didn't know how to talk about that or how to deal with that. So this was kind of my childhood. We lived in Ireland for a bit, and that's where I learned to drink. I had my first drink before we went to Ireland. My mum and dad, we moved to Fulham, and they had a regular pub that they used to go to in Hammersmith. And you don't need to know all these details, but anyway, so So what I'm saying is that there was a 70s cocktail cabinet, and people will remember them, with the little cocktail sticks and a mirror, and all like one, lovely coloured drinks, blue, red, green. And I worked out a technique of getting a little glass and taking a bit of each, and I would drink it, and then I felt quite warm, and I felt quite confident, and I wasn't pissed. But of course, being the addict, it was like, oh, Mum and Dad are going out next weekend, great. And as soon as they'd gone out, and now I'd gone over, and they came home, and their 11-year-old son was paralytic, and singing rebel songs and telling them I loved them, and So I learned we then moved to Ireland, and I started hanging out with kids there. I learned to drink, and it was sort of manly there. Being able to knock the pints back, and I had my first girlfriend out there, and then I had my first broken heart out there, and I don't know if I've ever recovered from that. Probably in one way or another. And then I went to a school there, and I was kind of educated quite well, because in London we were sticking our fingers up and telling the teachers what to do, but out there I had angry priests taking the shit out on me and teaching me, so I learned because I was so scared. Anyway, we then didn't work out for my dad. We came back to London, and we came back in 1976, and it just exploded. The music scene exploded. Punk rock took off. I got into reggae with my Jamaican mates. Was smoking spliff. There was a gig every night. It was a good time. I'm not kind of. I know people go. I used to take the mickey out of people going on about the 60s and the hippies, but it was a good time, and there was always something to do, and you could go out. You could go out and get drunk and see bands and stuff like that, and it was great. This went on for a few years. My education suffered, and I ended up kind of doing jobs that I wasn't really feeling it, I wasn't into it. Don't worry, I will get to NA. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is I then started trying to fix myself with outside things. So if I had money, I would spend it on records and clothes, and there'd be gigs and going to football matches up and down the country and stuff like that. And what happened, there was about 1979, a lot of my friends who I looked up to, they became quite dishevelled, and they became quite shady, and they weren't kind of interested in a lot of stuff. And for some reason, they were always going up to Kensington High Street. And I thought, well, what are you going up there for? You're going to Kensington Market or the clothes shop? Oh, no, none of that. And it turned out that there'd been a revolution in Iran, and a lot of Iranian smack came into that area, that particular strip. And my friends started getting into that, and I didn't really. That wasn't for me. I was more into social drugs, boozing and taking loads of speed. If you want to call them social drugs, I mean the state I got in. Anyway, so I just wasn't really. That wasn't doing it for me, and I've been watching episodes of Kojak. I was told to mention that because. That's how I connected heroin. I just watched Kojak, and heroin came up on there, and if you take heroin you end up getting nicked and you go to prison. I didn't realise that the first time I took it, it was probably one of the warmest, most secure feelings that I'd had, that I'd been chasing all them years and years. I was trying to fix the feelings with drugs, basically. I thought I was using them to socialise. And when I eventually did find NA, I was in and out of detoxes, and people from NA used to come in. And it's like, give yourself a break. If to get here tonight, you've probably travelled across London. You come in there. Some people will go out and eat after, and give yourself a break. We work at this. We work at staying clean. And I was in the detox with an attitude, and the NA people used to come in. And I took their inventory. I didn't know them, but I just took their inventory. I thought, well, how in God's name are these people going to help me? And I just, again, you know, I just thought they were religious or they were social workers. I didn't realise that they were giving up Sundays with their families or their loved ones or just their chill-out time or watching the big match. God, I'm going back there. But watching Serie A, Italia League on a Sunday with a roast. I didn't realise they were doing all of that. And but they were coming and you know, I know they were doing it for themselves, but at the same time they were helping, they were giving it back. So I sort of knew a little bit about NA, but I didn't know a lot. And when I was using, I thought I knew a lot, you know, and I really did believe. I'd watch things like Top of the Pops, and I'd say I can do that, you know, or I'd listen to politicians. I think they're full of shit. I could sort the country out, or you know, and I did all this from a fucking flea-bitten armchair, you know. Gone, you know. So. And this is what I came into NA with this attitude. I know everything. I knew nothing, you know what I mean? And my old man used to point it out to me many a time, you know, and I never really listened to him until I got older and I thought he was right, you know, and I got into trouble and he was right. But I had an agenda. I was going to do my detox, and I was going to get out of there, and I was going to have controlled using, and I'd be able to get off again on a £5 bag, and that would last me for 3 days. I mean, I just wouldn't have it. I didn't believe in surrender. I thought you were all fanatics, to be honest. I didn't believe in total abstinence. And of course that got me into a lot of trouble when I came to NA, because I didn't believe in total abstinence. I thought the problems were grade A drugs. I got clean, and then I realised addiction is quite a mental illness, you know, depending what I do with it. And you know, it wasn't quite what I bargained for. I just thought, well, I'll get clean, I'll get my life back together. My girlfriend's gone, but I'll get another girlfriend, and I'll just do a job, and I might not like it, but I'll get somewhere nice to live, and I won't end up in prison, and I won't have addicts, drug dealers after me that want to kill me. There were two kinds of addicts when I was using. There were the real sharp ones, you know, the ones that sold drugs, and they still ended up in NA, you know what I mean? And then there was the ones like me that just kept getting high and want to get more high. And I've got to give it to my girlfriend at the time. She probably kept me alive, because she seemed to have some kind of, she would have her morning medicine, and then she would have a go to bed medicine, and she was quite smug with that. You know, she was feeding a habit. She was looking at the gear. We tried dealing, or she was the dealer. I knew how to get it and use it. But she probably helped keep me alive, because I just would want more and more and more. And members of my family kept me alive, because I was too cowardly to go out and rob people and to go shoplifting. I tried that when I was younger for fun, and it was fun. But when I had a drug habit, it wasn't fun. It was desperate, and I couldn't do it, and I couldn't risk getting nicked. And in a kind of cowardly way, I stole off my own, and I knew they wouldn't send me to prison. They'd probably, you know, take a while to forgive me, and this, that, and the other, and probably shut the door on me, but they weren't. I just, you know, I knew what was coming, put it that way. So I got out of the detox. I tried to have a controlled habit, and I was back in the detox 18 months later, with my tail between my legs. And I think really the surrender had started then, because they made us go to the NA meetings. They were going to turn the TV off. You know, like that putrid green vinyl silk emulsion, and the TV is latched onto the wall and it's high up, just like the Nurse Ratched thing, really. And they said, if you don't go to the meeting, we're turning off EastEnders. And, you know, and I was getting quite... We have it in our literature, institutionalised. It was easy. It was low maintenance in there. All I had to do was take the medicine, try and get some sleep, 3 meals a day, warm bed, you know, cuddle off a girl in there, because we'd all be talking and like, oh, I've ruined my life, you know. And, it was. I learnt about drugs in there, other drugs that I hadn't taken before. There was people that were using in Piccadilly in the 60s that turned me on to all these you know, so I was networking, you know. and for a while I lasted as a good contact. It was a bit of an identity, I suppose, which is quite sad, but if ever there was a drought on, people would know that I would know someone who lived somewhere in East London or South London and North London, and we'd all hop into a van and I would leave them on a corner and I'd go about 4 roads away so they didn't know where I was going, and you know, and that was, I kept my habit going that way. It's really sad, it ain't cool. I mean, it's just really sad, isn't it? So, I ended up back in the detox, and like I said, my tail was between my legs. I'd surrendered, I'd been nicked, I knew I was going down, and I'd found out about NA more and more in there. I didn't do a remix of it. I didn't think it was going to be religious and that you all hold hands and kumbaya. You know, some of my friends think that's what we do, but that's fine. And I knew then there was somewhere to go. I didn't know that before, and I didn't know about feelings. I knew I liked feeling good, and I knew I'd always want to feel better. And when I left there, my doctor, she said to me, "Look, when you leave here, you have to get ready for anxiety, so that you don't end up going back to using." And what I've noticed was, as the spring approached, I started noticing the blossom on the trees. I hadn't seen that for about 6 years. I was always looking down or looking at, I hadn't seen things like that. Even listening to the birds. I know this sounds really cheesy, but when you've been in that darkness for so long, suddenly life just feels really full and it has wonderment again. And it did, at the end of my using, there was no wonderment. It was just grim. And let's face it, we don't end up here on a Friday night because we're having a great time, do we? You know, oh yeah, what'll I do Friday? I think I'll pop down to NA with all the other people down there. You know, so we come here because we've made shit of our lives, and I made shit of my life. I don't have to go into the plural there. You know why you're here, but I made shit of my life, and I came to NA. And again, I just thought I'll have a bit of this, and I'll do it my way. I don't get this whole clean thing. I just, I've got to have a drink. I mean, how am I going to talk to people? I've got to break the ice a bit, and if I want to go a bit longer, I've got to take some uppers. And for the first 90 days, I used every day. I did 90 meetings in 90 days, and I used every day. And Robert's at the back there, Charlie's there, Jeff. There's a few people from when I came to meetings back then. You know, everyone was smoking. Gary would be here now, he'd be chain smoking. I'd be smoking as I was sharing. You know, people would be sharing. A big bloke would sharing in tears, and then a woman would start hugging his back. I thought, oh yeah, it's like that, isn't it? So, I'm really, really lucky I stayed with it, because you can imagine what was going on, and we didn't have a lot of role models. We had people like Johnny H and Dudley, but they had maybe a couple of years more, and they were like considered old timers. So whenever an American came over, no offence, but whenever an American came over, they were like gods to us. You know what I mean? They had 10 years. They were like gods, and. I've been to America. I've been to NA's a gift for me. I've travelled around the world with NA, and you know what? The sickness is the same everywhere. You know? And there's people like you and me in meetings over there. You know, so it's. But in them days, that's how it was, and I just picked up the language. I mean, I didn't know what they were talking about. I'd hear people say like, oh, I've got dirty laundry to sort out. And I knew what they meant. And then I met someone, I'd left the meeting early, and the guy and I was in a lot of trouble. I was looking at a prison sentence, I'd owed a lot of money, I was unemployable, and I saw this guy from the meeting, I went, how are you? I went, oh, yeah. He goes, what are you doing? I said, the meeting was okay. I said, I've really got a lot of laundry to sort out. And he said, well, why don't you go to the washing machine? Why don't you go to the laundrette? And I wanted to chin him, you know what I mean? So, but I was picking up all that stuff and sticking with it, you know? and chain smoking through the meetings. It was great. And then they brought in a thing where you couldn't... I don't smoke now. Well, yeah, I don't. But they had a thing then where they had half the meetings smoking. So everyone would go over. Some people remember that. So I stuck with it, and I just kept going to meetings, and I ended up getting a job. And in them days, your step one was painting and decorating. It's true. You know, they hadn't worked for years. What are they going to do? Get a brush and a roller, and you know, whatever happens. You know, I've seen people come in with bin bags, and they've ended up like tycoons. So you know, whatever. I just stuck with it. I then got a sponsor because I kept using, and I didn't trust everyone. I don't always believe everyone. I don't know if that will ever leave me. But you know, this guy was sponsoring a friend of mine, and he took a bit of time out for me. And I asked him to be my sponsor, and he said, "Well, what do you think sponsorship is about?" And I thought, you know what, Robert, I haven't got a clue, man. I just keep using. I've come into NA. Nobody's turning their back on me, but they're kind of like, oh, here he comes again. You know, he's high. He's going to go off and use again. And that's how it was. It sounds like I'm exaggerating, but I did do the 90 meetings, but I didn't stay clean. I'll be honest with you. I didn't stay clean. But I was desperate enough to go to the meetings. And nobody said, you're bad for our image. I kind of felt that they were thinking that, but hey, I found out I was codependent as well. Thanks for that too. Anyway, so nobody turned the door on me. A couple of people hinted I'd go, you know, to the Drinkers Fellowship, AA, and I didn't. I felt more at home here, you know. If you saw me at the start of the meeting, I've got water all over me. I need a bib, you know, it's all over the table, all over me. But, you know, I just felt more comfortable here. And that was kind of it, really. I settled in. I settled into NA, and I then started building a life for myself. I became employable. I got in relationships. I always felt like I tried to do the right thing. I tried to, you know, it wasn't about ego or anything. For me, I liked having a mate. It didn't work out with someone. It broke my heart again. I'll have to put that on the list. I did a step 4, which my sponsor at the time pointed out I needed to do, and I really got to the core of all of the heartache, the pain, the breakups, the stuff that I caused, and I was very thorough, and I recommend it. It's not a punishment, it's not homework, it's a freedom step, and I did that. 10 years into recovery, I had to do another one because with the first 4th step, I sorted out the carnage, my using carnage, and then the second 4th step, I had to sort out my recovery carnage, you know, new resentments and stuff like that. So I try now to keep up with a step 10 because I don't know if I've got another step 4 in me, to be honest. So I try to keep up with a step 10. I'm not perfect with that, but I try. I remember, how long have I got, G?
You've got about 15 minutes.
All right, we're doing good tonight. And I moved into this flat and I became self-employed. I got my first home. It was easier, you know, I know it's hard now with social housing, but it was easy to get somewhere back then. You know, you could do rehab, you could get clean, and they were really more helpful there, you know. That's my little protest remark. And I got my first flat, and what had happened was a girl moved in above, and she was on crack, and she had a load of kids, and she used to go out in the middle of the night and do her business, and the kids were just running wild. They were, you know, fucking pulling down wardrobes, jumping up on the bed, like kids do without a parent there. Now, I'm downstairs, the plasterboard ceiling, plasterboard walls. I'm trying to do a step 10. Take my inventory for the day, be a good little recovery boy. And I want to kill. And then I've got to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So that's what I'm saying. I couldn't do a perfect step 10 every night. But I do try to do it regular. and I think it helps keep me out of a lot of trouble. I'm no angel, I still get into trouble. I do my best not to hurt and use people. I've hung out with people in recovery that have done that, and I've had to pull away from them, and they were good friends to me, but I just couldn't be around them doing it anymore. And I don't want to judge them, but I just can't be around that. And so I just got my head down with recovery, just got into it, got used to it. They used to, at my local meeting, they started calling me Captain Recovery. And it's funny because I rang, they become like my little community, my home group becomes like my community, and NA is my community. With my neighbours and all that, they like me, but I don't hang out with them. I don't go to the Fate Hall or go to the Crime Watch thing and all that they have on the street. I don't go to church on a Sunday, but I have my community here, and I know you connect with me, and I connect with you. It's not all about me. And I rang one of my home group up today. I said, look, I'm not going to be out to have a bite to eat or whatever time I'm doing a chair. He goes, oh, what are you doing? I said, Trafalgar, oh, the big one. I said, yeah. And then he said, is anyone going with you? And I thought, well, no, I'm not going to Millwall, am I? I'm not going to a crack den, am I? You know, I'm amongst friends. I'm not going on a 9-month journey across Australia and Asia. And then as the meeting started, another girl from the home group, she sent me a text, oh, I hope your chair goes all right. And that leads me to, you know, when I got here, I'm just amongst friends, you know. Even if there's someone in there who doesn't really like me, or I'm in their step 4, I know deep down you don't mean me any harm, and I don't, you know, so, but I just feel like I'm amongst friends. And the thing that really, really blew me away was, my family, you know, getting clean and being back amongst the family, I was very grateful for that. And I put my mother and father through a lot. In the last 5 years, I lost them both, you know. And it fucking hurts, you know. It still hurts. It probably will hurt forever. Because, you know, sometimes I just want to talk to them. And this thing about heaven and angels, I don't want to hear that. I want to, where's my mum and dad? Where the fuck are they? You know, I want to have a word with my dad. You know that sort of thing when someone disappears. But I lost him in November. And what I'm saying about people in NA looking out for you, my dad moved up, he moved out of London, he moved up near Milton Keynes, a town called Bletchley, you know, the code breakers place. And so they had the funeral up there, and it was a grim day, as you can imagine, but the sun was out, and it was November, and it was cold, and everyone was in black. And then as the hearses pulled into the crematorium, I just thought, my poor family having to go through this again so soon. And you know, and he put up a good fight, the old man, you know what I mean? But he knew it was time. He didn't want to. He used to say he was an old Irish guy, and I don't mean to sound crude, but he'd say things like, the day that comes when I can't wipe my own arse, I don't want to be here. That's how bad it got, you know, the cancer. So as we pulled into the crematorium, out of the corner of my eye, there's 2 NA guys from London, 2 of my mates, standing there like fucking mob guys, like mafias. Funnily enough, one of them's Italian and the other one's like the size of a door. And they'd gone there to make sure, because no matter how much I tried to wear it, well, it was a hard slog, you know, to lose both your parents within the 5 years, and I didn't use on it. And when in early recovery, that might have been a get-out clause for me. I was so touched, and I went over to them and tried to introduce them to my family, and you know, I suppose what happened was I then got a little bit codependent, because I've got my friends and I've got my family. Anyway, back at the wake, they weren't there. I ring them up and they said, you know what, Tom, we got there early and your dad's send-off was beautiful, and it was it was just a beautiful send-off. And they said, we kind of knew you were going to be all right when we heard all the accents. We heard London accents, we heard Irish accents, and we just thought, we're going to leave you with your family because we don't want you worrying about getting us a ham sandwich at the wake. But it was just a beautiful, beautiful thing. You know, I don't know if they thought, oh, he's going to use, but I was just so touched by that, you know. So that is one of the things. I am the only person who can sabotage this recovery. I'm the only one who can sabotage this kind of community. And, you know, like I said, that person who came in, I know everything. That still goes on. And I don't, you know, and I'm still open to learning new stuff and new relationships, new recovery people. I don't travel as well as I used to in early recovery. I'd go to meetings all over London. These days, you know, I might not go more than 3 miles past my doorstep, but I try to stay involved and you know, am I going to dry up again, G? This is what happens. I start all this great thinking. I do 3 chairs. I do the one before, I do this one, and then one after. But, All right, mate. I'm the one who can sabotage it. Sometimes, you know, in life, I might think I'm not where I want to be, but I'm so glad I'm not where I was at. I got clean at the tail end of the 80s. Acid House came out, and believe me, if you was a newcomer when Acid House came out and you didn't use, you had a fucking good time. Because there was just, it was like reliving punk rock again, but there was raves everywhere, and I wasn't using. We didn't even have Red Bull, you know. And I don't know if it was feelings or I was a younger man, but I would dance all night to Acid, and people like, what are you on? Recovery. I'm blessed with, I've always been able to work in recovery. You know, sometimes recovery you might feel it's a bit bland. You know, not a lot happens. You go to work, you pay your bills, you see your family, blah, blah, you might watch a box set, you know, oh, is this it? Is this it? But sometimes when I put that key in the door, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful I've got a nest. I'm so grateful I've got a job. I'm so grateful to have my health. When I pray for my family now, I just pray, because they're feeling it. You've got to believe me. You know, they've got kids of their own and everything, but you know, our mum and dad they were such rocks that all I pray for them is for health and abundance. And I keep it that simple. There's no point going into things. You know, no one knows what's going to happen, do they? So I do that. The job that I've got now is age appropriate. Like I said, when I did the chair here before, I'd come off a building site, I was fried. I was dead. 20 minutes, I just couldn't, it was like Alzheimer's had kicked in. I couldn't think. And so I've got a job now that's kind of age appropriate. And I can still work like I did when I was 30, but it takes me about 3 days to recover. You know, and that's the same with sex. I can still shag like when I was 30, but it takes 3 days to recover. So on that light note, I better leave it there. So thanks.